So I love what you say about the concept about romancing oneself. And I think that's completely, totally intriguing. Now, how did you begin this process? And what were some of the first steps you went and took to cultivate a deeper relationship with yourself?
So I would say when I moved out when I moved out of my house and then I got my new place, um, I was not perfect. My whole brain was scattered because my identity was not the same. Like I'm not that same woman. I'm no, your identity goes with the relationship, right? And I remember at like practicing and asking myself, what is it that I wanted? Like, what do I want to work towards? Who do I want to be? And what do I want to attract and manifest in my lifestyle? And again, like early on, I would call myself for a long time, even when I was married, a hopeless romantic. And I was like, wait a minute, what would it be like to be a hopeful romantic? And, at the time, I was not ready to date or see anyone. I knew that it was important for me to spend time on my own to actually cultivate this new identity, this new relationship. And so I started working into a routine, really, like this, like even the smallest things, setting time aside for myself and actually like putting discipline, like adding it to the calendar, like going to the gym, meditating, going for walks. And then it got to the point where I started craving, wanting to be around someone, wanting to attract a partner. And yet I remember like I think I was complaining, you know, when am I gonna find attract a partner or something like that? And then I realized that, in these moments when we ask ourselves like why not me or woe is me, it's really interesting if you take a moment and think about this is not the hardest thing you've ever had to sit with. And I was like, wait a minute, if I can take myself through this, if I could take myself through that divorce process and stand up for myself and speak my truth, like that whole thing, and I'm sure you knew like relationships changed and that whole process. If I can do that, I can do anything. And so it really served as a confidence booster to be like, wait, I don't have to, like I know now, and I knew back in that process that no one is coming to save me. I get to be the one who saves me here today in this moment. And what would that look like? And I was like, well, I'm going to take myself out. And if I wanted to go out on a date, what would that look like? And I was like, well, as a hopeful romantic, I want to go somewhere romantic with like really nice dinner and wine. So I took myself out on a date at one of these really nice restaurants where my first apartment was. And I remember feeling so awkward. I had no, like, I remember feeling very weird and very uncomfortable because, for so long it was just waiting for someone to do that or take the initiative to take interest in me and just accepting the handout. And now I was like, I'm no longer going to accept just any handout. I'm going to accept and take what is valuable to me. So I need to start figuring out what that looks like by like rekindling this relationship with who I am now. And so I would say the planning the date nights and the I would say self-love rituals. I started I started studying a lot more about pleasure, especially for women, and how there's a gap in communicating that education. So I would start preaching about female masturbation and how, how powerful that really is, when you spend time with yourself and actually get to know what feels good in your body, it like reconnects your mental health with your sexual health. It boosts your confidence. It strengthens your communication because now you know like what feels really good. So you can say that to your partners or your lovers. And it also, I get very nerdy about this, so bear with me.
That's okay.
With with these practices, you actually there's a lot happening at a cellular level. So your hormones are shifting and balancing back in. So you feel less alone. You feel more at peace and at home with yourself. You feel like at the end of your practice, whether or not you have an orgasm, it still feels very good to reconnect again. And you no longer feel obligated to go chase just anybody, because in that moment, you're like, that was fantastic. And you know, you start developing such appreciation for who you are by implementing these things from the date nights to the self-love practices to the morning and evening routines.
Yeah. So sitting with yourself too, and then discovering like what pleases you, what kind of pleasure can you get from things, whether it's sexually or just being out in nature or food. I know food always makes me happy, especially chocolate.
Same,
I
same.
love chocolate. Yeah. So now, with the whole confidence and self-love, it's those are like two crucial pieces for our well-being. Like, I know back in the day, I hated myself, and of course, I didn't love myself because I hated myself. And then building that confidence, I had to practice what a self-confident person would be. Like, if the higher version of Gina, what would she be eating? What would she be doing? How would she be talking? Who would she be hanging out with? Like, what is her favorite activities? Then that's when I'm like, okay, I would then stand up tall. I would smile often. I will go ahead and like meet whoever I want to meet, engage in the conversations that I want to engage and do the activities that I want to do. And then once I started taking those into practice, I just like the confidence was it was just because I was practicing. So I always think practicing is always definitely crucial in that.